Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk the Ring 3 boxing card this weekend. This is everything you need to know, breakdown, analysis, predictions of all the fights on the card. So, let's talk about the event. July 12th, New York City, Queens, Louis Armstrong Stadium. We have Edgar Berlanga versus Hamza Sheeraz, Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda for the WBC lightweight title, Alberto Puello versus Sabril Matias for the WBC World Super Lightweight title, and David Morrell versus Imam Kartiev. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start at the top of the bill. We have Edgar Berlanga versus Hamza Sheeraz headlining this event. Hamza Sheeraz, 26 years of age, 21 wins, 17 by way of knockout, 0 losses, and 1 draw coming into this bout. This will be the debut of the super middleweight division for Hamza Sheeraz, moving up from middleweight where he did get a title shot in his last fight. Hamza Sheeraz is coming into this fight with the only blemish of his career being recorded in his last outing. That was against Carlos Adames. You could almost say Sheeraz secured a draw in that fight because there is no doubt Carlos Adames won that fight back in February. Hamza Sheeraz escapes with an O still in his loss column. Very fortunate for that. And he's made some big changes coming into this. Obviously, moving up a division. But I think the big change for Hamza Sheeraz going into this fight is the change of leadership around him. He is now under the guidance of Andy Lee. Andy Lee got some good fighters under his name. He's got Ben Whittaker. He's got Joseph Parker, who we've seen rise dramatically since he's changed to Andy Lee as a trainer. And I think most importantly, he has had a move of scenery away from the bright lights of LA. He is now living and training full-time in Ireland in this camp with Andy Lee. No more distractions. Home and the gym for Hamza Sheeraz. And I think this will be one key factor if Hamza Sheeraz is able to secure the victory in this fight. Let's talk about the recent fights we have witnessed Hamza Sheeraz in. So we'll start with June 2024. He beats Austin Ammo Williams by around 11 TKO in Riyadh Kingdom Arena. That fight, I think, really brought him to the forefront of not only British boxing, but world-level boxing. Obviously, in Riyadh season, all eyes were on that card, and Austin Ammo Williams, I believe, was quite a favourite going into that fight, and Hamza Sheeraz, he weathered a storm early, got hit with some big shots, came through it, fought very, very well, and secured the stoppage in round 11. He then moves on from this to secure possibly the best win of his career against Tyler Denny in September of 2024, a round 2 TKO in Wembley Stadium. And this fight was the fight that gave him that title opportunity. He had beat Tyler Denny, racked up a lot of middleweight belts. So he was ready to vie for a title shot. Following that win over Tyler Denny, it meant Hamza Sheeraz was holding the Commonwealth Boxing Council middleweight belt, the EBU European middleweight belt, and the WBC silver middleweight belt, all of which gave him that shot at Carlos Adames, which was his last fight. This fight occurred in February of this year in Riyadh, the card of the century. The result was a split decision draw, 115-114 to Hamza Sheeraz, 118 to 110 Carlos Adames, and a 114-114 split. This meant that Carlos Adames retained his WBC middleweight title, but more importantly, was a big change in the way in which Hamza Sheeraz was viewed. Now, Hamza Sheeraz, by all accounts, lost that fight, apart from the most important account, which was the judges scoring it on the night. Now, they've come to a very close split decision draw, apart from the one judge who awarded it 118 and 110. It was definitely in and around that. If not, I would probably say maybe 116, 112. Like, I believe that Carlos Adames won that fight quite comfortably. I think Carlos Adames was just a puzzle that Hamza Sheeraz could not solve on the night. So let's talk about what Hamza Sheeraz will bring into this fight, what he will probably lack in this fight, and how we're going to see this fight play out. Now, Hamza Sheeraz, he's up against a big hitter in Edgar Berlanga, who we will talk about after this. So, he's up against a big puncher. And the one thing I will say about Hamza Sheeraz is we've seen him get wobbled. We saw him get wobbled early against Ammo Williams. He struggled against the movement and speed and the constant forward pressure from a smaller man in Carlos Adames. Now, Hamza Sheeraz was always very tall and very big for that middleweight division. Even now moving up to super middleweight, he's quite tall for that division, and he'll be able to fill out his body even more. But coming up against a smaller fighter, one with movement and speed, constantly pressing, constantly trying to get into the pocket, Hamza Sheeraz couldn't deal with that. One thing I will say about Hamza Sheeraz is he was fighting at middleweight. He was very skinny at middleweight, but his power was underrated. He's got that power, and these people that are built like this, Sebastian Fundora, we see that the ranginess and the punches, they can really load up a lot of power through those long legs and through the punch. And not only that, because of how long their arms are, they can tag you at distance, but if they hit you close, they're really pushing through you. They're never really reaching to land that punch. And Hamza Sheeraz likes to get on the inside and box. But that's going to be a very big danger for Hamza Sheeraz coming up against someone like Edgar Berlanga, who will be trying to push him down, chase him down, and really brawl with him and hit him with big power shots. Hamza Sheeraz, in order to win this fight, will need to survive some early round punches, brawling. He needs to stay away from that and wait, because if he tries to get in there in a firefight with Edgar Berlanga early, it'll be lights out for Hamza Sheeraz. Alright, let's talk about Edgar Berlanga. He's coming into this fight at 28 years of age, 23 victories, 18 by way of knockout, and 1 loss. Edgar Berlanga, a big damaging puncher, someone who could easily end the night's action with one punch. In my opinion, Edgar Berlanga's got a frame and a style of boxing that can be easily transferred into light heavyweight. To be honest, he's probably big for a super middleweight. I think he's probably naturally a light heavyweighter, but able to cut the weight and move in the super middleweight division. Berlanga, he started his career, this is an almighty stat, 16 fights, 16 wins, 16 knockouts, and all 16 in the first round. That's how he started his professional campaign. And his last fight, his 24th professional fight, he went back to how it all began and he secured his 17th first round knockout. So let's talk about Edgar Berlanga's recent fights. I'm going to focus on the last two. The September 2024 card against Canelo Alvarez and the March 2025 fight against Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz. We'll start with Gonzalo Ortiz. Now, he came into this fight after that big loss to Canelo Alvarez, came in and beat Gonzalo Ortiz round 1 knockout. Now, there's a lot to talk about in this fight because Gonzalo Ortiz was in absolutely no shape at all for that fight. Ortiz came into this fight with 2 professional fights in 2024, March and June. So it was almost a year since his last fight when he fought Edgar Berlanga. But prior to these 2 fights that Gonzalo Ortiz had in 2024, his last professional fight was in 2014 because he spent 10 years in federal prison and came out in 0 shape of boxing, with 0 ring time, 0 anything. He was in prison, incarcerated. So this is where my big fear for Edgar Berlanga is. because before this he fought in September 2024 against Canelo Alvarez. Alvarez, if you remember that fight, won by a wide unanimous decision. And this is the fight to focus on because, to be honest, I don't really rate Edgar Berlanga's resume at all. I don't believe he has the most outstanding resume. Yeah, he has some good wins over Steve Rolls, Jason Quigley, Patrick McCrory, but these aren't fighters on the level of Hamza Sheeraz. Never mind on the level of Canelo Alvarez. And on that night against Canelo Alvarez, he was found out. It was easy work for Canelo. Canelo actually drops him in the third round. I thought Edgar Berlanga did well to recuperate from that knockdown and see out all 12 rounds. But we're talking about a fight here that I believe is somewhere in between Steve Rolls and Canelo Alvarez, probably teetering closer to Canelo Alvarez. Hamza Sheeraz, he's a hard fight. He is a hard fight. Now, I do want to give Berlanga props because the fact is he did go 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez. I thought late on he actually looked not too bad in the 11th and 12th round. He is a big hitter. He hits like a fucking steam train. Like, honestly, this is the worry, I think, for Hamza Sheeraz. Because especially with Hamza Sheeraz, we saw against Amo Williams, he gets hit early in that fight. And when he got hit, you could see those giraffe legs. And that's one thing about Hamza Sheeraz. Because of the way he's built, shots to the stomach, shots to the head will make those legs wobble. And one person you don't want to be wobbling against is Edgar Berlanga. So, now, let's get to where this fight will be won and lost. I think this fight will be dictated by how the first 4 rounds go. If Hamza Sheeraz is able to nullify Edgar Berlanga by using his reach, his height, and his skill, don't let Edgar Berlanga get close. Keep him at distance, right? And hit him with some good shots that push him back and sort of stop Berlanga from wanting to push forward. I think Hamza Sheeraz goes on to win this fight. Edgar Berlanga will be coming in here to take off Sheeraz's head. No doubt about that. He is a confident man, which is dangerous. A person that hits like Edgar Berlanga and is confident coming into this fight is always worrying. I think Hamza Sheeraz needs to drain that confidence and make it his fight. If Edgar Berlanga gets even the sniff, even the taste of, I can hurt this guy, I'm getting to this guy can't keep me off him, Berlanga will stop. He will turn the lights out, and it'll be a big win for Edgar Berlanga and big question marks over what happens next for Hamza Sheeraz. How do I think this fight's going to play out? I think this is the return to victory for Hamza Sheeraz because I think he's the better boxer. I think he's better tactically. I think he's had the harder fights. I think Edgar Berlanga, what we saw him struggle with against Canelo Alvarez, someone who I think went into that fight past his peak, but not just past his peak, but it wasn't the Canelo that was young and hungry and wanting to knock everybody out. Canelo knew that he could peter to a victory. This is Hamza Sheeraz who is needing to win this fight and wanting to make a big statement, and that's dangerous when you're coming up against such a good fighter that Hamza Sheeraz is. Edgar Berlanga, though, I think from the time that this fight was signed to now, has gained something, and that gained something is this Tom and Jerry fight, and I'm going to talk about this as well when it comes to Shakur and Zepeda. But all of a sudden, someone like Edgar Berlanga, who likes to chase someone down, likes to really get in their grill, likes to be able to land those power shots and not let their opponent get away, has now got a ring that is smaller. It's now 18 by 18, right? That adds to Edgar Berlanga. That puts more emphasis on how Edgar Berlanga likes to fight rather than the tall, rangy fighter who might want to, use that reach to his advantage, especially early on. And if Hamza Sheeraz gets hurt at any point, there is less room for him to run. All right, let's talk about Shakur Stevenson taking on William Zepeda. Shakur Stevenson, 28 years of age, 23 wins, 11 knockouts, 0 losses, and 0 draws. Shakur Stevenson will be looking to defend his WBC lightweight belt for the third time since winning it in November of 2023. Shakur Stevenson, a 2016 silver medalist, a former featherweight and super featherweight world champion, and the current lightweight champion. Now, Shakur Stevenson, I think, a very dividing character in the sport of boxing. You either love him or you hate him. I'm probably more on the side of like him. I actually don't have a problem with him. I think he's a very good boxer. I get why some people dislike him. Some of the hate towards him I don't really get because he is an outstanding boxer. And I still think he is a future pound for pound star, providing some of the things I'm going to talk about go right for him. And that right for him is his injuries. Now, Shakur Stevenson, I think a lot of eyes are going to be on those hands of his. Now, he's had big injuries to his right and left hand over the span of his career. He had surgery in his right hand middle end of last year after getting a knuckle injury in sparring, that cancelling the Joe Cordina fight, if I remember correctly. He needed surgery on that. We thought that was fixed. He gets into the fight with Josh Padley, who was supposed to be Floyd Schofield. And round 6 of that fight, I believe Shakur Stevenson ends up injuring his left hand, is unable to use it properly, and that's big for a southpaw to not be able to use that left hand. So let's talk about the recent fights that we've seen Shakur Stevenson in. Now, let's go back to November 2023. He beats Edwin De Los Santos by unanimous decision. Close fight, but Shakur wins that fight. And this is the fight that makes him the WBC World Lightweight Champion, winning the vacant belt. He then moves on from this and versus in July of 2024, Artem Harutunian. He beats him by unanimous decision in Newark. And his last outing, February 2025, when he beat Josh Padley by round 9 TKO in Riyadh. That was the card of the century. Josh Padley taking that fight on a few days' notice after Floyd Schofield steps out. Now, he copped a lot of hate for this fight, but I have rewatched the fight recently, and to be honest, it was basically one-way traffic from the start of the fight. And lots of people were giving it to Shakur Stevenson because he didn't end the fight early enough and he couldn't get him out of there, and so on and so forth. But to be honest, Josh Padley is a very, very good fighter and showed a lot of heart in that fight, with Shakur Stevenson also injuring his left hand. Now, Shakur Stevenson, we don't describe as a power puncher. We don't describe him as a knockout merchant. He, even though we say that, has still secured lots and lots of his victories by stoppage. And in that fight, he still ends up stopping him. So, look, he's coming up against, in my opinion, the biggest test of his professional career in William Zepeda. William Zepeda, 29 years of age, 33 wins, 27 knockouts, 0 losses. Zepeda is an output fighter of a different kind. The guy's a machine, a monster. He's a fighter that averages anywhere between 100 to 120 punches a round. This is over the span of his career. Most fighters, even the most active fighters, average anywhere between 60 and 80 punches. You can see that it's almost double the activity of the average fighter. And even in a 12-round fight where you think he may slow down or reduce activity to sustain the 12 rounds, we're looking at up to, if not possible, over 1,000 punches thrown by Zepeda over the span of those fights. Against Farmer, in the first fight, Zepeda threw 974 punches compared to Tevin Farmer's 618. Now, that's some sort of activity, and I think that's going to play the big part in this fight. Now, Zepeda, he's coming into this fight off a July 2024 victory against Giovanni Cabrera, a round 3 KO. And then 2 fights, one in November of 2024 and one in March of 2025 against Tevin Farmer, in which he wins both of those, one by split decision and one by majority decision, to win and then withhold that WBC interim lightweight belt, granting him the opportunity to face Shakur in a title bout. William Zepeda, he's been waiting a very long time for the Shakur fight. He wanted it before the first Tevin Farmer fight. He ends up taking Tevin Farmer, thinking it will be light work. It's anything but. He has 2 grueling fights with him. The first one probably more grueling than the second one, but equally both tough fights. Now, this is a stylistic nightmare, in my opinion, for Shakur Stevenson. And we once again look at the recent rule changes that all of a sudden this isn't a smaller ring. And Shakur has unbelievable defense and counter-punching ability, possibly the best in the current roster of fighters along all divisions. And he's going to need to show it. He's going to need to show how good he is at it, because William Zepeda is going to spend 12 rounds in his grill throwing just punch after punch after punch after punch. And in a smaller ring, Shakur Stevenson, someone who likes to fight at distance and counterpunch, there's less room, right? All of a sudden, those ropes will be on his back. So, how do I think this fight will go? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. But if I was to say 100%, this is my thought, this is what I think is going to happen, I believe that Shakur Stevenson wins this fight, and I believe he makes a statement in this fight. I think we're going to see why Shakur Stevenson is a pound-for-pound star. William Zepeda is going to throw lots and lots of punches, but I think Shakur's going to pick him off, to be honest. I think we're going to see Shakur Stevenson show just how good he is. Because it's a stylistic nightmare for both of them, really. Because William Zepeda, he's going to want to press that action and get in and throw so much that Shakur Stevenson can't handle it, can't get away. But at the same time, Shakur Stevenson now has someone in that ring that is going to press him. If Shakur Stevenson at any point can step back and let that left hand go and pick Zepeda off, I think we can see Shakur Stevenson's path to victory there. The big question is, how are those hands going to pull up? How's the ring size going to change this fight? And is this sort of activity something that no boxer can handle? Shakur Stevenson, who I would rate as the best in the division, can he handle this menacing output from William Zepeda? I'm not sure. All right, Alberto Puello taking on Subriel Matias. Puello, 30 years of age, 24 wins, 10 knockouts, 0 losses. Coming up against Subriel Matias at 33 years of age, 22 wins, 22 knockouts, 2 losses, 0 coming by way of knockout. Now, Alberto Puello, he does seem, in my opinion, to get hurt. Well, not hurt, but hit quite often with good shots. He's a very good and comfortable back foot fighter. And sometimes that plays against him because he's so comfortable standing back. He allows that pressure and he allows these people to throw punches on him. But he's very good at countering. He really offers himself to get hit in order to hit back. And he's more focused on hitting back rather than getting out of the way of their punches. And I feel like this could play a big part in this fight. Now, his last 3 fights were in December 2023 when he beats Hector Madeira by unanimous decision. June 2024 where he beats Gary Antoine Russell by split decision, becoming the WBC interim super lightweight champion and handing Russell his only career loss. And then a big win against Sandor Martin in March 2025. Split decision, became the WBC super lightweight champion after this bout. So, some good fights especially those last two, Sandor Martin and Gary Antoine Russell. Russell probably being his best opponent. Subriel Matias, the former holding and once defending IBF Super Lightweight World Champion. He lost his title against Liam Parrow, very, very close fight. But Liam Parrow gets the nod in that fight. Subriel Matias is someone that I've always thought is quite big for super lightweight. Tall, broad chest, broad shoulders, and he loves to fight in the pocket, loves to get in close, loves a bit of clinch work, and really likes to make it a dirty, messy fight. He's very good at it. And you know what, to be honest, his opponents recently have probably, done just as much of that back to him as well, which makes it, even more condensed looking that Subriel Matias likes to fight in that pocket in that way, although he can box quite well. June of 2024, he loses to Liam Parrow by unanimous decision. That was with Parrow deducted 1 point for holding. November 2024 beats Roberto Ramirez by round 2 TKO. In March 2025 beats Gabriel Galaz Valenzuela by round 8 TKO. Who do I think wins this fight? I think we're going to see Subriel Matias, his size and height, land a shot and stop Alberto Puello. That is my opinion. I think I've seen enough in his fights that Alberto Puello offers himself up. And although he's a good back foot fighter and good at countering, it's a lot harder to counter when someone's grabbing you and fighting in that pocket, and not sending as many standard technical boxing shots at you. And I think Subriel Matias is going to close the show in this fight. Either way, I would still tip it Subriel Matias. Even if he doesn't get the stoppage, I think he goes on to win this fight. And hand Alberto Puello his first ever career defeat. Alright, the fight that's going to open up all this action, David Morrell versus Imam Khatiev. David Morrell coming into this fight, 27 years of age, 11 wins, 9 knockouts, 1 loss. David Morrell will be looking to rebound after that disappointing loss to David Benavidez. That fight being for the WBC interim light heavyweight title in his last outing. Tough fight with Benavidez. But I think he can be proud of the effort he put up against Benavidez. Benavidez is an absolute monster, a terror. Benavidez, though very new to light heavyweight, he still performed very, very well. David Morrell, he went the distance against David Benavidez, made him work for it, and he actually got a late drop on David Benavidez in the 11th round, which I think he can pull a lot of pride from. Tough, grueling fight, and to put someone like that on the floor in the 11th round is very admirable, and I think we're going to see David Morrell learn and take a lot from that fight. His last 3 fights were 2023 when he beat Sina Ajegbo in round 2 TKO. Just way too skillful, speed, brutal power, pieced him apart in that second round. Just way too good. August 2024 beats Kalajic by wide unanimous decision, and then beats David Benavidez by unanimous decision in February of 2025, being his last fight. But he's coming up against someone who, for a lot of people, is an unknown quantity in Imam Khatiev. Imam Khatiev, 30 years of age, 10 wins, 9 knockouts, 0 losses. He's a brutal Russian machine. He will walk you down and hit you with big power. I know for a while there they were calling him the next Beterbiev. I think that has cooled at the moment, but he definitely has an aura about him and a way in which strikes fear, I believe, in a lot of his opponents. And with all that power still comes a very skillful and experienced amateur boxer. Let's not forget, that power comes with a lot of skill. His last 3 fights, September 2024, December 2024, and March 2025, you can see how active he's been. September wins round 7 TKO, December wins round 3 TKO, and then in March 2025, he beats Derval Elias Palacio by unanimous decision. The only fight for Khatiev in his pro career that's gone the distance. Went to a decision. He won it by a wide margin. But it was hard work, no doubt. It was hard work for Katiev, really made to work for it. Got hit a few times in that fight. And I think that up until that point, he looked like he was just going to stop everyone early on in that fight. I thought he was going to stop Palacio, but he does well to stay in there and give him a hard fight. David Morrell is going to have his hands full in this fight because Katiev will walk him down and he will hit him with thunderous punches. But I think there is enough to look at in that last fight by Imam Katiev to excite David Morrell. And I think the experience that they both gained from their last fights will change the way in which they go into this fight. But I think the way in which David Morrell went against David Benavidez is a lot more impressive than the way in which Imam Katiev performed against Palacio. And I think David Morrell gets the jump on him. This is a big step up professionally for Imam Katiev. And I think he's going to experience his first low, and I think he's going to cop a loss. Look, Imam Katiev, he is a Russian fighter, but he is equally probably Australian at this point. He trains in Australia, works with George Kambosos. I've seen a lot of him. And for me to say that I think he's going to cop a loss is probably big, to be honest with you, because I probably am a little bit biased towards what I've seen so far in Imam Katiev throw up, but I think this is a step that we've seen quite a few fighters sometimes struggle with. If you look recently, you probably say Galal Yafai, also a very big amateur, got a great start to his professional career, but then sort of hits a speed bump, and this will be the learning curve. Look, I'd love to see him take what he learnt in that Palacio fight and come out here and get a big win over David Morrell. But I think David Morrell will be just too good on the night. All right, everyone, that is the breakdown. That is the talk. Let's rerun through all of my thoughts to these fights and predictions. I'm backing Hamza Sheeraz to defeat Edgar Berlanga. I think Hamza Sheeraz will do it either by a late stoppage or a good unanimous decision victory. Shakur Stevenson, I'm backing to pick off William Zepeda and use his counter boxing to get away from him definitely early and pick him off throughout the fight. I think Shakur Stevenson will struggle to win a decision with the amount of output versus Zepeda. I think we have to see Shakur Stevenson hurt Zepeda and possibly put him down at least once in this fight. But I'm picking Shakur Stevenson to beat William Zepeda and really show once again just how good he is. Alberto Puello, I am tipping to lose to Subriel Matias. I actually think Puello will get stopped, but either way, Subriel Matias, I think, will get his hand lifted at the end of the night. And David Morrell to return to winning ways, bounce back after David Benavidez' loss, and beat Imam Katiev. No doubt that fight, though, will be an unbelievable fight. Make sure you tune in, watch the whole card. And yeah, that is the breakdown. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win all these fights? What do you think is going to make or break these different fighters? Like, subscribe if you are new. We are building this channel. It's good. This is a different style video. Let me know if you like it or whether you want me to do these breakdowns how I used to do them. If you like this style of breakdown, then this is how we'll do them from now on. If you want a more condensed breakdown, then we can look at that as well. Alright guys, I'm out of here. See yous.